Hi, it's Carol from ReadingGroupGuides.com. Thought I'd do something special and share a little bit more with you about what's on the site right now. I know a lot of groups are not meeting this month simply because we're all trying to keep our social distancing going on. Some of you are meeting via Zoom, and it's something that my group is going to try at some point. So I would love to hear if you're doing that with your group and how it's working out. So I'm going to walk you through some books we've got on the site this month, and also just some things that I'm excited about, and talk to you about some authors I'm going to be interviewing, just sort of a way for me to have a little book club with you right now about what to read. Well, starting off, our March book for What's Your Book Group Reading that you could win with your book group is Lisa C.'s fabulous The Island of Sea Women. All you have to do is tell us what your group is reading this month. We'll even let it count. It's like what you were supposed to be reading this month. Let us know, and you could be eligible to win one of three sets of 12 copies of The Island of Sea Women. Also, this week, I am going to be speaking with Lisa for one of our Book Reporter Talks 2 interviews, and that will be up later this week. And I was hoping to interview her at the Tucson Festival of Books, and I've got a lot of questions prepared. This is a book that I know a lot of you have, some of you have read. Well, actually, it's been like something that you've been buzzing about. So those who haven't, get out and enter to win by Wednesday, April 8th. Next, we've got My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. This is a story that's told in two different time frames. It's 2000 and 2017. In 2000, there's a young woman who's going to a private boarding school. A teacher there is sort of taking her under his wing, and he is praising her and giving her all kinds of special attention. And then we also realize that what he's really doing is he's seducing her and wants to have an affair with her, which is what ends up happening. Flash forward to 2017, and this same young girl is seeing these notices coming out that a teacher that was the teacher at her school that seduced her is being talked about for sexually harassing, sexually molesting young women. And all of a sudden she's trying to figure out what was really happening for her 17 years ago. No, for her it was love. He cared about her. And now she's conflicted about what she's seeing, what she's reading. And it's really a story about the life that she was leading, and did she really know what was going on? Really compelling kind of a book that I think that a lot of book groups could have a really deep discussion about, especially in these days of Me Too. Then, from Therese and Fowler, we've got A Good Neighborhood. We have a family that's lived in a neighborhood for a very long time. Woman is raising her biracial son. She's African American. And all of a sudden, the people next door raise the house next door, and they put in a big house and a pool. And when they do this, they compromise this oak tree that's on the dividing line between the two properties. And this woman is outraged that this is happening. And the man who moves in is one of those people, he's a braggaggio. He just knows everything. He has a HVAC business in town, and he does commercials about himself on television. So he sees himself as a local celebrity. He's very, very demanding with his wife of this is the exacting way that she, his stepdaughter, and his other daughter live their lives. And at the same time, well, the two kids are falling in love, the biracial son and his daughter. And what is going to happen now with these two kids? Because it's not something that the parents are going to be looking upon kindly. So I have a fabulous interview with Therese and Fowler that we've got up on the site. Also, I spoke with Kate. So you've got both of those Book Reporter Talks 2 interviews that you can be enjoying as well. And speaking of another interview, we've got The Jetsetters by Amanda Eyre Ward. This book takes place on a cruise ship. If you're thinking about cruise ships right now, these are the days when cruising was fun. So they've got a family of 4, mother and her 3 children, who go on this cruise together. And these are 4 people who have not spent a lot of time together on a lot of things that they're going to find out about each other as they're jet setting around. It's definitely one of those kinds of reads where if you've enjoyed people like Emma Straub's look at family and what happens inside families, it's in that same kind of a vein. So one to enjoy. Then we've got Writers and Lovers by Lily King. In this book, there's a woman who's in her early 30s, and she desperately wants to finish a novel that she's working on. And when she's doing that, she's working in a restaurant. And she's just putting in time there. She's living in this garage apartment of someone who's very, very wealthy. And she's really not living her best life at all, but she's determined to get this book finished. And at the same time as she's trying to become her writer, she's also delving into what's going to happen with her own love life. And there are two men that she meets. One is younger, one is a widower with two young boys. And because she goes back and forth in her relationships with them, as well as sitting and trying to write her book. It's got a really satisfying ending to it. Many of you may remember Lily King, who wrote Euphoria. Next, we've got In 5 Years by Rebecca Serle. Now, right now, there are moments where we just need something light, something that you can whip through and just completely enjoy. And what we've got here in 5 Years is that book. Well, at the beginning of the book, this young woman has her whole life planned out. She's in her 20s. She's going to marry this guy. She's going to get the junior partnership at her company. She's going to be moving into Gramercy Park. Everything is completely thought through in her mind. Well, so she thinks. So the night she gets engaged, she wakes up in the middle of the night and she's had a dream. And in that dream, she's with a different guy. It's a different apartment. Her whole life looks completely differently, and it's 5 years in the future. So she shelves it in the back of her head, doesn't think about it, goes on living her best life. And then all of a sudden, she's at a party with one of her friends one day, and her friend walks in, and who does she bring in? It's the guy that was in her dream for 5 years in the future. So how is this all going to come together? It's a brisk read. It's really terrific. I also did a Book Reporter Talks To interview with Rebecca. That's really fun because she talks about how she had her whole life planned out and the changes that were made along the way. Next, we've got Let the Willows Weep. This is by Sherry Parnell, and I'm actually going to read the back jacket of what this book is about. In the tradition of best Southern fiction, from Bastard Out of Carolina to Where the Crawdads Sing, Sherry Parnell's Let the Willows Weep is a heart-wrenching portrait of the hard-scrapple, humble lives in rural America. A keenly observed and unflinching look at the life of Bird Dog Harlan as she grows up in her dysfunctional family. This novel explores the line between destruction and redemption. And you'll find yourself really cheering for Bird Dog as you read this novel. It's one of those real slim books. Absolutely love the cover. I think it's just stunning, looking cover. And when you're reading it, you realize what this girl is going through, and you're just going to root for her so much of what she's trying to overcome in her life. We've also got, this is a galley. We're not at the office right now. I'm sure there's a hardcover sitting somewhere in my office right now. This is a new book called I Want You to Know We're Still Here by Esther Safran Foer. I heard her speak about this book at a Random House event a couple of months ago. So interesting. When she was growing up, she always knew there was some sadness in her family. And she was never quite sure what it was. And one day her mother told her that her father had another wife and a child that were killed in the camps that she did not know anything about. And with just a picture and a little bit else of information, she decides to go in and trace the story and figure out what was happening in this family. What was this big piece of their lives that they were missing? And she just wants everybody to know that they were still here. She wants people to know that these people existed. If you recognize her last name, yes, she is the mother of the very, very well-known author, Jonathan Safran Foer, and his brothers are also writers as well. So another one to take a look at. We've got The Night Watchman by Louise Erdrich. This is a book we just reviewed on the site this week. It takes place in the 50s, and it's a time where what's happening in the Chippewa community is they're realizing that the white man really does not want to continue to give them all the rights that they've been espoused and thinking that they were going to have all these years. So it's this deep story looking into that whole time where we were going to let the lands run free, and I don't remember exactly what the lines are, but it was the way we're supposed to be treating the indigenous people and when things start unraveling. So this is The Night Watchman. Next, from Chris Majalian, we've got his latest, which is The Lead Red Lotus. In this book, a young woman travels with her boyfriend to Vietnam. He is a cyclist, and they're on a bicycle tour. And he has said that he wants to go back to where his father was hurt in Vietnam and where his uncle was killed. And while he is there, he disappears. And she's an emergency room doctor. In fact, that's how she met him. And she is going to try and unravel what happened. Where did he go? What happened to him on this journey? And what happens is something that involves actually a terrible outbreak of what's happening with some rats. and it's kind of like got this pandemic feel to it. So given everything that's going on right now, it's a little close to home, but it's extremely well done. I'm going to be talking to Diane Chamberlain this week as well. She wrote Big Lies in a Small Town. This book takes place in 2 different times periods. There was a contest where someone would be able to win to create a mural in a town in North Carolina. The woman was from New Jersey. She goes down and she starts creating this mural, but she runs into a lot of conflict about racial strife, things like this that are going on in the town. And as a result, this mural is never finished. Flash forward, and we go through 2018, I believe, 2017 or 18. And this young woman is actually coming in to finish the painting and to figure out what happened with this mural along the way. So well done. That both parts of the stories weave back and forth. I'm so looking forward to talking to Diane about it. For people who are looking to try to pair 2 different books together right now, I've got 2 for you. Splendid and the Vile, which is by Erik Larson, and Lady Clementine, which is by Marie Benedict. Both of them look at Churchill. This looks during a couple of years during World War II. This is really between World War I and World War II. So if you're looking for something to sort of pair some books together to have a conversation, discussion about, here are 2 for you to take a look at. I don't have a copy with me right now, but Austin will be sharing a photo, I'm sure, of Becoming Mrs. Lewis by Patti Callahan. This is the story of the woman who was married to C.S. Lewis, her life, how she influenced him, their lives together. It's beautifully written. It's a book that's gotten so much praise. I interviewed Patti a couple of months ago on our podcast and video, so you can take a look at that. But it's a really interesting look at the life of C.S. Lewis and that whole world that he had created around him at that time. Also, a lot of people are asking me for a really inspirational book. And everybody says right now they want something uplifting. My Young Moms Book Club had said to me, gee, could you just help us figure out something? And I was really grappling with this last week. Couldn't figure out what I was going to select. And then all of a sudden yesterday it came to me. And it's a book called The Day the World Came to Town. And it takes place in Gander, Newfoundland on right around 9/11 when all the planes from around the world were grounded into Gander, Newfoundland. And the people there came together to go out and help the people that were on these planes and supply them with places to stay and food and medicines that they needed and the way they gave of themselves. And I think it's probably one of the most inspirational books that I've read. And when I think of right now where so many people are trying so many unique things to come together, it's the book that I would highly recommend that groups just grab and take a look at, because when we were going through 9/11, none of us thought that we were going to come through it, and we did come through on the other side. And we're going to get through where we are right now the exact same way. Also, Come From Away, which is the play that's on Broadway right now, the very well-reviewed, I think it's constantly sold out play. It has this as the background. And I'm not sure if it was actually based on the book. I haven't found any of that in the playbook from it or whatever, but just know that if you enjoy reading the book, get to New York, or it's playing in a number of places around the country once theater kicks back up, you want to see Come From Away. So that's my roundup of what's happening this month on ReadingGroupGuides.com, Book Reporter. We're trying to bring you at least 2 interviews a week, and I'm also going to be talking each week on what's going to happen on Book Reporter. We're trying to keep you completely connected with what's going on with books right now. So just know we're out there, and we'd love to hear from you about what you're reading. And if your group is Zooming or figuring out another way to chat with each other, I definitely want to know. Thanks so much, everyone.